Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2018. I'm Damon Hatfield here with Tom Marks.
Hello.
And we are joined by Al Bickham from Creative Assembly.
How you
talking
doing?
about Total War 3 Kingdoms.
Yeah, that's right.
Welcome to the stage.
Thanks a lot.
This is a little bit of a different endeavor for Total War, is that right?
Yeah, it's the first time obviously we've done loads of Total War games based in different historical periods.
Right.
It's the first time we've ever tackled ancient China as a theatre of conflict. And it's kind of fascinating because while the histories were written of that period and all the battles that were fought and that sort of stuff in the 14th century, a book was written called The Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Right.
And this romanticized history brings the characters and of the period and the events of the period into kind of really vivid detail. So you've got these larger-than-life characters who performed impossible feats on the battlefield, and so we're taking a lot of inspiration from that as well. We're taking a lot of the narrative and the characters and building something that's not your standard historical Total War game, effectively.
And some of these characters we've seen before in other sorts of games, like Lu Bu is in this battle that we're seeing now, who's a kind of recognizable character within Chinese myth and warfare. It's interesting, though, because you guys are leaning into this idea of heroes and these hero units a lot more, and I was wondering, is that inspired by what you guys did with Total War Warhammer? Because it seems like you're borrowing a little bit of that and bringing it into the historical setting.
Sure thing. I think really, we take more of it from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms because so the Romance of the Three Kingdoms has been told and retold for hundreds of years, and it's still relevant today. People are still making movies. I don't know if you've seen Red Cliff, amazing high production values movie in recent years, based in the period. But comics, TV shows, books, cartoons, it's still relevant today. So being able to bring these characters to life for a Western audience as a Western studio is quite an exciting thing. I think we did deal with characters in Warhammer in a way we'd never done before, right? So because you've got these totally recognizable sort of warriors on dragons and things like that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the way we're portraying characters in Three Kingdoms is also sort of it's predicated upon the systems that we're building into the campaign game. We're making these characters a lot deeper. We're giving them more facets, if you like. So a character, take Cao Cao, who's the great strategist leading our army in the battle here today. He in the campaign game, he doesn't just have a skill tree and some abilities. He has friendships with certain characters. He'll have rivalries with certain other characters. He'll have his own personality, which will develop over time, which will be uncovered over time by you as a player. There's a sort of sense of predestination with the characters as well, because you get to know them. They start acting in a certain way, and you become aware of what their desires are. And you can see their level of satisfaction with their place in the world, right? So this leads to very interesting character interactions in a way that we've never had before. So I'll give you a kind of off-the-cuff example. You'll have, say, a governor in your faction, right? And he's incredibly good friends with one of the other generals in your faction, okay? However, your governor doesn't particularly like the way you've been playing in the game because you're the faction leader effectively as a player, right? He doesn't really like the way you've been playing because he's a very peaceful man. He prefers a diplomatic approach. And you've been, having wars all over the place, all around your territories in an attempt to sort of gain more territory. That governor might not like that. Although the general might, because he gains from it because he's a general. So your governor, who is not a warlike man, dislikes this to a point. Satisfaction level drops so low, he defects to another faction, and he takes your star general with him because in this case, their friendship bond is stronger than that general's loyalty to you. So you not only lose one of your best governors, you lose a general as well because he's gone with his friend to join the enemy. So you get this sense of agency with the characters. They have relationships and they'll perform actions on their own. And you can obviously exploit that to some extent. You can try and push that in certain directions by giving them more of the stuff that they like. So we just haven't dealt with characters in that depth before in a Total War game. And when you come to a battle like this, you'll see the characters in battle. Obviously, they'll have unique abilities, and they fall into different classes as well. We've got sort of, you take you look at generals in the battle. We've got 3 different retinues here with three generals at play in our army, and each of those generals has a certain kind of focus to the kind of troops that they can recruit. So the last guy there is a strategist. So he brings the trebuchets, he brings the archers. He likes to fight from a distance. You don't want to put the strategist in hand-to-hand combat, but you'll want to get your guardian character or your champion character or your vanguard character into combat with other characters and with the other army as well. And you'll see these characters, if they've got relationships in the campaign game, you'll see that reflected in battle as well. So you'll see characters, you'll hear characters insulting each other if they're rivals, or they'll have a little friendly banter between them if they're friends, if they've got a bond of friendship between them. So yeah, we weave it in and out of campaign and battle, and we really want these 2 aspects of the game, which is what Total War is really all about, to reflect each other better as well.
And what is the fight we're seeing now? Because I mentioned it was Lu Bu's castle that we're attacking, but I guess, as you just said, these people have, they fight each other, they have rivalries, that sort of thing. So what's the story behind this?
So this is the Siege of CRP. This is where Lu Bu lost his life. And Lu Bu, he was #1 powerful warrior in the Three Kingdoms period. He was an epic fighter, slew thousands of men, defeated, went 100 bouts with this other hero and defeated many other heroes. I mean, he was man to man. He was pretty much untakeable, unkillable. So hugely respected as a warrior, but he was also completely unscrupulous, and he made and broke a massive list of alliances. He'd sign up with a warlord, and he got bored, so he killed the warlord, and then he went and joined another faction. And he did this sort of thing a lot. He slew Dong Zhuo, who was the tyrant at the start of the Three Kingdoms period. The entire sort of cycle of geopolitical chaos that the Three Kingdoms period had in it was sort of predicated on Dong Zhuo, who was this tyrant. He took the boy emperor and used him as his puppet, basically, and had this, and there was a massive revolution, a massive civil war, and 200 years later, the unification. But Lu Bu was one of his chief generals, and Lu Bu slew Dong Zhuo. He slew his, and he slew 2 of his adoptive fathers. So at this point, he's holed up in the city of ZRP, and it's pretty much the only city he has left, right? That he has, it's the only bit of territory he has left. And at this point, Cao Cao, the general we're in charge of here, is his territory's expanding, and his territory's brushed up against this particular region where the CRP city is. So Cao Cao sees an opportunity to take Lu Bu out of the picture for good. And actually, this siege lasted weeks. To finally win, they actually flooded the city before they went in, and they actually took Lu Bu down.
So it wasn't just 20 minutes, like we're
No, it was a bit longer than 20 minutes. Yeah. But hey, Total War battle, what are you going to do?
I'd also like to ask you about the art style and the UI specifically, because it's down right now because there's very cinematic shots going on. But the UI has been redesigned in a really interesting way, where there's this kind of ink splatter, painterly style to the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you can see it in the unit cards. We've sort of focused. You can see the whole model, but you can see highlights that tell you what that unit is.
Right.
And we use a lot of white space. We use a lot of these ink swirls. When you bring up panels on the screen, they'll sort of blend in, and you'll see the ink paint itself on the screen. And so, we want to get this sort of clean, modern design, but also, we want it to be reflective of sort of traditional Chinese artwork with Chinese designs, Chinese language in the game as well, Chinese characters. And we want to bring that period to life. We want it to feel evocative, and the art style is definitely helping us do that.
So is it true there's 2 campaigns in this game?
Well,
is that accurate?
There's 1 campaign, but there's 2 ways of playing it, essentially.
Okay.
So you can play in the default mode is romance mode. So you've got these larger-than-life characters who'll, if you controlled Lu Bu, you would march him like a combine harvester through units of enemy forces, right? Like knocking them all out of the way with his giant glaive. But if you want to play the more traditional kind of elbow patches and half-moon spectacles, historical academic version, we've got a kind of classic or records mode. And this makes characters more like traditional generals in traditional Total War games. So they appear in battle as regular guys with a regular guy's amount of hit points. They'll have they'll appear in a bodyguard of other warrior, like an elite bodyguard around them, sort of thing. And likewise in the campaign game, we make some differences to how it works as well. So in the romance mode, that kind of default mode, you'll have the events of the book, those really kind of heavily narrative events and epic kind of tales that happen in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. There are kind of story points that you hit as you play through the campaign that can push your gameplay in new directions and open up new avenues for exploration and things. And when you play in classic mode, we stick to the events of the period, effectively. So you still get those events which can kind of push your gameplay in different directions, but they're slightly different. They're not quite so wild,
We're seeing another new thing here, which is these duels, where two hero characters are actually 1v1 fighting each other in the town square, and nobody else is interfering.
Exactly, yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit about this and kind of when they crop up?
Yeah, absolutely. So duels are something that you can initiate yourself. We've got a little piece of a UI to do it there. And only champion characters do this. So champions can duel. And champions, this is, if you use one of your champions to duel an enemy champion, like Xiahou Dun is doing with Lu Bu here, it locks them. There's someone running away. He's like, whoa, no, I don't want to get involved.
Smart man.
It's like there's two gods fighting. I need to get away from this. So yeah, and it's a great way of locking an enemy champion out of the battle for a while, so he doesn't fight your troops. But also, it's a great way of trying to take a champion, just trying to take him down, like that. And it's really about reflecting that concept of these guys being almost mythically powerful.
Right.
So you have them, and they're in single combat, and it's honorable single combat. And when you use one of your characters to challenge another champion, he will never say no, because these guys are full of bravado, right? They're not going to say no. It's like, well, my honor can't take it, so of course I'm going to fight you. So you can get yourself into a pickle, right? You can because they've got different characters will have different special abilities. Some will be much more kind of one-on-one melee focused. Others will be more group attack focused, right? So you might have a champion that you put your champion against an enemy champion. He's actually a lot better at dueling than you are. He may have more hit points or something like that. So. And you can cancel the duel, but your guy will run away. So they fight until one routs or one dies, effectively. So,
right.
But yeah, once again, it all comes back down to the characters. It all comes back down to bringing these guys to life in a way we haven't done before.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Total War Three Kingdoms is coming spring 2019?
That's right, yep, next year. I mean, that battle there, that's what we've been showing off at E3. Obviously, that's just a tiny letterbox peep of the entire game.
Except that battle was enormous.
Of course, yeah. That is true.
Yeah. Cool.
But within the scale of a greater campaign,
Yeah,
of course,
sure.
We'll have tons of different cities and different battle types and 11 different factions to players. So the next year we'll be obviously shouting about all that and showing people the campaign game in greater detail and more battles in detail as well. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Al, thank you so much for coming by the IGN stage.
Welcome.
Stay tuned. We still have more games to show you from E3 2018 after this.